Since last this board met, the town of Enfield lost a very dedicated citizen. His name was Dan Post. Dan Post is the kind of man that most men only aspire to be. He was a very dear friend. He was a great father. And he'll be missed by the whole community. So I ask that you all remember Dan for a few moments, please. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America. In the event of a fire or an emergency, we have exits to the immediate rear of the chamber or off to my off to my left and down to the parking lot. Kathy, could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Janitis? Here. Mr. Peabody?
Present.
Mrs. Ungary?
Here.
Mr. Warrer? Mr. Grady?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Mr. Neville?
Here.
Mrs. Thurston? Chairman Sirard?
Here. Board guests. Do we have any board guests today, Dr. Super?
Not this evening. We have two folks who will address us during the superintendent's report.
Very good. Moving on, separate superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll start with our student representatives report. You have some information in your packet, and we have our Enfield High School representative here with us to share additional information.
This week has been really busy at Enfield High. We've begun our AP testing, which was last week, and it's continued into this week. I think tomorrow is the U.S. history test. And this weekend, we had our musical Pom Pom Zombies, which I thought it was really good. I don't know how many people got to go, but I'm proud of our Lamplighters. And this Friday is the senior prom, which everyone's excited for. It's going to be in South Windsor. And tomorrow night at 6:30 in our auditorium is our band concert. And on the 23rd, we're having something called Mr. EHS. You pay for a ticket. I'm not sure how much it is yet. And the money goes to the senior class, and it's kind of like a pageant that the senior boys do, and it's fun to watch. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I believe our other student representative will be here possibly later because she had a field hockey
Probably.
game.
Yeah. Probably running someplace.
Track meet, that was
That's it. So we'll go on to B, our school readiness grant. We welcome Pam Brown, Director of Social Services, and Chris Como, who is a co-chair of KITE. And they're here tonight to tell you a little bit about the school readiness renewal grant for fiscal year 2014-15.
Good evening. I'm Pam Brown, the Director of Social Services, and I know Chris was here recently. This is Chris Como, the coordinator of KITE. And we would like to submit a school readiness renewal grant, which is submitted jointly with the Board of Education and the town. And it would provide for 27 preschool slots that would be located at the Child Development Center. Right now, we are providing 27 slots, but we're only getting reimbursed for 24. This would be an increase of our reimbursement for 3 additional slots. And as you may have heard, there's 1,000 new slots throughout the whole Commonwealth that were just funded. The budget hasn't been signed, but this, if the budget is signed and passed, then we would be requesting 3 additional slots for the town of Enfield. We did go out to have open bid and requested all of the local child daycare centers that were eligible to apply, but it is quite a high bar, and we did offer some technical assistance. There are some programs that might be interested next year if there's additional slots, which we hope there will be, but they weren't quite ready this year to do it. So that is our request. It's a renewal. We're in the 2nd year of the grant. The reason why we need to come forward is because of asking for the additional slots.
Does anyone on the board have any questions? Mr. Neville?
Just a question. You said you're in the 2nd year of the grant. How many years does the grant run?
Just 2.
So you're in the
This-
final, okay.
This would be, this would be the second year. Sometimes they renew them when you're in, a second year for a third year, but typically we have to apply every 2 years.
Okay, and the slots, the reimbursement, is it needs-based? Is that what it is? For the youngsters coming in, the reimbursement for the tuition?
There's a sliding fee scale
Okay.
that is set by the state, and it's based on the parents' income.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Schuman, you have the floor.
Next, we have a technology plan presentation. The curriculum committee has been looking at our technology plan and asked Chief Academic Officer Ms. McKernan to put together a few slides to share with the board to let you know where we are in terms of progress in that plan. And so Ann is here tonight, and she's all set up and ready to go.
Welcome, Ms. McKernan.
Thank you, Mr. Shard. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. I'll wait a moment while we warm up. Come in. Okay. Yep, there you go. Oh, there we go. Great. Voila. It's nice to be here with you tonight. Our curriculum subcommittee has met several times, and I was asked to present and review the technology plan for the district. And I was very pleasantly surprised as I read through the plan and presented slides to the subcommittee. I'm happy to present them to you tonight to bring you up to date on where we are in this plan. To provide an overview, the plan was written and submitted to the state in July of 2012, and it is effective to the end of next school year, 2015. There was a planning committee, and it had 15 representatives, including Mr. Neville, and 14 others, including parents, IT project coordinators, guidance department teachers, technology teachers, curriculum director, principals and assistant principals. The vision statement of the plan is to provide Enfield Public School students and staff with technology resources necessary to support and maintain the infrastructure, curriculum objectives, and state mandates. There are 5 goals and 25 action steps in the plan. I'd like to walk you through the goals with the highlights. An executive summary, a high-level summary would be that we implemented the plan for 2012 through 15, and it has 5 goals and 25 steps. As of last month when I reviewed it, all action steps are in process, with many action steps complete. As technology is a field with which experiences rapid and continuous change, this is a tough area to stay ahead. But it's a good job to stay up to date with the plan that you had seen back now 2 years ago. So I'm very pleased because, as you can imagine, there have been a lot of updates, even in 2 years since the plan was submitted. Enfield Public Schools does face challenges, of course, in this long-term commitment to funding, hardware, and software necessary to realize the goals of the plan. The first goal is engaging, empowering learning experiences, and there were 5 action steps. My update is that all steps are completed or nearly completed in this first goal. The highlights include the English and math curriculum have been revised to comply with Connecticut frameworks and, of course, Common Core state standards. So as we revised for math and English Language Arts CCSS, Common Core standards, we had a chance to look at the technology standards. We've introduced keyboarding to grade 2 this year, which was part of this plan to look at what we were offering primary school students. The 8th grade portfolio assessment is in place. We have explored additional online learning opportunities, including Apex Learning, which is a online tutoring program that you can offer in a mixed environment with some teachers available as well. And the Middlebury Interactive Learning Laboratory and others. We have electronic textbooks presently in use in approximately 20 courses. We have an ongoing challenge in step 4, which is implementation of online learning at the middle school. It's not quite realistic with the number of stations available right now. We have worked to increase the number there, and we are on, we've taken good steps forward, but that is still a steeper climb. Goal 2 is around assessment, and we have completed or partially completed all the steps. Some of the highlights are that every teacher is using eSchool, that the Home Access Center is up and running in grades 3 through 12, that School Messenger has become, thanks to your foresight of this board, funded School Messenger, or approved School Messenger, and it's being implemented well, and I think we're beginning to take advantage of the email capability in School Messenger as well. Performance Plus has been brought on this year, and it's a data warehouse. It's in implementation phase. We have approximately 8 important data points from this year in the system, as well as historical data for state testing for the last 3 years in. We have trained several people, and we will have another training on Monday. We are using AimsWeb, Lexia, Reading A to Z, STAR, DRP, and Gates McGinnity, all different types of assessments, and we're using the electronic portions of those now instead of the paper, pencil kinds of portions, or paper and pencil translated to Excel sheets, emailed to everyone for their input and emailed back with lots of possible errors. We were awarded the technology grant from the state of Connecticut this year, and we purchased many additional devices. We have just completed, I hope, please keep your fingers crossed, I think there's not even a child left for makeups. I believe as of today, we have completed the entire SBAC field test, which was an enormous undertaking for all districts throughout the 26 consortium states. Our ongoing challenge, of course, is the financial support for devices and subscription programs are costly. They're very good, but they come with cost. To connect teaching and learning, again, all steps, there are no steps that have not been started. All steps are started, are partially or fully implemented. We ran an iPad consortium for 2 years now. We have our Forum for Professional Learning, which is our repository for all of our curriculum documents, our instructional tools that we'd like to share. We've begun videotaping our teachers and have several videos up. We continue to find videos out on the web that are excellent instructional examples and post them. We have ongoing committee work with ITPC that's alive and well and active and meeting each month. The tech team has offered workshops to support all kinds of programs, so teachers do have that support for HACK, for TAC, for Sharp Schools, for eSchool, and now we're beginning to roll out for Performance Plus, which is the data module. One of our challenges is the teacher. Currently, the teacher laptops in some of our grades are older or using unsupported software such as Windows 7. Is that correct? Windows XP, excuse me, Windows XP. That's a challenge because over time, as you know, and this has made the news and the current for the state and others, is that these unsupported programs have to be updated or they become not fully functional. Makes the teacher's jobs much harder. In Goal 4 is infrastructure for teaching and learning. We're fully implemented. The highlights are that the fiber optic ring deployment is well underway, which is adding speed and getting out to all of our schools. And ITPC conducts regular review and assessment of the network. Challenges ensuring sufficient access points, just making sure we're connecting to the fiber ring at all points in our system, but something we're well underway at looking at. Goal 5, productivity and efficiency. Again, we have not found steps that we haven't started at least. We're finding more people accessing the forum for curriculum, for instructional strategies and assessments. We are posting assessments there instead of emailing them to different teachers so that they don't lose the old versions. They always have the most current version. We've started the use of a program called Schoology, which allows online school communities, teachers who can talk together. That's in its beginning stages. And we continue looking for and supporting subscriptions, which will help us in these 3 areas. We want to ensure that all have equal access to the technological resources, and that's not always easy if some teachers' laptops are old, or they have tablets, or they need a different type. Overall, I want to thank you, for your support. You supported the state technology grant and School Messenger and so many things I can't think of everything, so I don't want to forget them. I'll just say thank you all in all for your support, because I know that in these times you try very hard to support the children and the teachers to stay current.
Thank you, Mr. McKernan. Board members, do you have any questions? Ms. LeBlanc?
Do we know of any initiative the town is taking to possibly convert from Windows XP to Windows 7? Because I would think that if we're using Windows XP, the town must be too, and that maybe there's something in the works on the town side that they'll be converting, or?
We are attempting, well, the IT department is looking at all the machines that are running XP. Some of them can be upgraded, some of them can't.
Right.
Those that can't, we can continue to use as long as they stay behind our firewall. The security is what they're most concerned about. If they stay on our network and they stay behind our firewall, we're going to be able to use them for a while, and then have to try to replace them over the next year or so. The danger is if they leave and they go outside our firewall, the security systems aren't there to protect them from viruses when they come back onto our system. There's no way to ensure that they're clean. So they've tried some different ways of disabling the ability of these machines to be used on the internet once they leave our network. That's one of the things we're working on. But there are machines on both sides that are going to need to be taken out of service at some point in the next year or so.
The reason I'm asking is because my company was using XP, where they're in an initiative over the next month or two to convert everybody to Windows 7 because XP is no longer supported. So that's why I was wondering if the town was taking an initiative to do that.
One of the major problems we have with XP right now, though, is the library cataloging system. That is an XP system, and it cannot be converted. So
Right.
we're going to have to figure out a plan for that. And for the 200 or so devices, we should be able to get it down the road a little bit with them, and then we'll have to convert those.
Right, because we had to do some testing on some old stuff we had at my company because we can't convert it into Windows 7, so
Right.
it was a little bit tricky.
Yep.
Okay, is it either Mr. Neville or Mr. Peabody? I'm sure either one of you.
I'll go first, he'll probably jump in.
Mr.
Hey,
Neville.
thank you very much, I appreciate that. Apparently, yeah.
Okay, I'll go again.
One of the things that I think Ray's going to jump in on this too is that, one, we're not alone in the XP. The entire federal government is running huge portions of it on that. The state government is, everybody is, companies are. Some things can be upgraded, some things can't. Windows 7 is not a panacea because it has its own issues along the way here from what I've been reading. But my understanding is Microsoft has reneged, and they are willing to, for a fee, to maintain the updates to keep it running for a while longer. It's a money issue, and it's a training issue, and it's an equipment issue that both in training and getting the right devices to deal with it. So I think that's part of a long-term plan, and I think there is a IT committee that's going to be looking at some of these types of things along the way, and I think that will help out. But it's not a new issue. Everybody knew about it. Microsoft's been putting it out there for 3 or 4, maybe longer, years or longer. And I think people have just, avoided it for lots of reasons. But my understanding, and I read it just recently, is that Microsoft is going to support it for a fee, but they will support it for a while longer and give people some migration paths.
Mr. Peabody.
Mr. Neville, you're absolutely right. Microsoft do anything for money, just about, and they will offer that service. But the challenge becomes not so much with the operating system itself, but it comes with the vendors that we use for applications, because they are not willing to go down X amount of operating system versions. So that's where the real push comes from. In terms of right now, we have to react to that. We have to remedy the current situation. But going forward, the ITPC really ought to, and they will be led this way, to start going into more leases so you don't have this operation happen again, or this event happen again. If we lease our hardware, when that lease is up, we get the automatically the conversion to the new operating system. However, like Mrs. LeBlanc pointed out, we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure our current software we're running at OS, so that involves our vendors. And we'll have to make sure that they're compatible with new operating systems in the same timetable. So that is the story of the laptops, and it's really not good that we have older operating systems hanging around. And I would encourage the ITPC under Ms. McKiernan's direction and oversight to keep current, especially for the school system, because we just can't afford to be having these things happening time and time again. It does become, as Mr. Neville said, a money issue. Thank you.
Mr. Walwer.
And thank you for your presentation tonight. Appreciate the update. I just had a few questions, technical questions. SBAC testing, you mentioned your presentation. What did this testing cost us? Question one. Question two, was this cost underwritten by state grants or by local taxpayer dollars? And I'm asking all this in context of our budget deliberations. Number three, how did this testing improve student performance, or was it even geared to improve student performance?
The SBAC testing was provided at no cost by the state of Connecticut, and perhaps by the consortium. I'm not sure if any state paid for the testing this year. I can't answer beyond us. All I know is we didn't have to pay for the testing. That was your first question. The test is a field test this year, as you may be aware, and that's a test of the test. And that was to see if millions of children across 26 states could be taking a test at the same time, virtually, we're in different time zones, but be online at the same time and have the system support that. So this year was a test of the tests, and I don't think I can tell you that there will not be student-level data that comes from this test. So we won't be able to see how student A or B performed. We will know how to prepare better for the test in the future. So this year is a test of the test, a field test.
Anyone else? Mr. Neville.
Just as a question, I mean, the SBAC is new to us, okay, and we're also the fact that we're taking it on the computer is also new, and you have to test out whether the infrastructure is strong enough, robust enough to deal with it. But in terms of testing, state testing or national testing, whatever, haven't we always done kind of field testing of at least questions or testing? It's part of the testing protocol to develop the testing protocol and to assess whether questions are valid or not. So I mean, this is SBAC is the new thing, but it's not a new process.
To show you how that process would play out in the past, when students would take the CMT or the CAP test, they would take all the portions they needed, which was approximately 8, and they'd always take a 9th portion, and that 9th was, we never told them which one was the 9th, but it was a portion of the state would get writing, a portion of the state would get reading, a portion of the state would get math, and they would be field testing questions for the next year. So you're absolutely right. There has always been a protocol to at least test questions. This system this time had to test questions and the structure of the computer system and whether districts could support it.
Mr. Peabody.
Did you hear of any issues technology-wise or any slowdowns or conflicts?
Yes, all in all, we fared well, but there were definitely things that I reported to the state of Connecticut as issues, or the SBAC help desk. We had to reset 40 tests, which for various reasons. There's April vacation was part of it. The children started a test on one side of April vacation. They came back. This was a 10-day window. And maybe they were absent a few times, and so they didn't finish. I had to report to the SBAC to restart their test. There were some glitchy problems that we worked out. Maybe I reported approximately 12 technical glitches. There were sometimes the system crashed, not often, but I believe my log says I reported 12 technical issues and 42 resets.
You still have the floor, Mr. Peabody.
Thank you. As a follow-up, when the system crashed, how did the students react to that? And I'll have a follow-up after that.
Sure. So if the system crashed and the students were easily able to get back in, which happened, sometimes it crashed and it kicked them out. And if the students were easily able to log back in and their past work was saved, they seemed not to have a problem. There was on 1 or 2 occasions a time where children may be kicked out more than once, and some of the work was lost. And of course, there was frustration at that point. That was not common, but it did happen. I I don't have a total number of times it crashed, but if it just was once and you logged back in and your work was there, children went right ahead, and by and large.
So what happened when the student lost his or her work?
We started again.
Start again. Okay, it's a web-based architecture, and I'm not real comfortable with that, working in that field for a while. What type of, when you had a crash, was it their help desk supporting you, or was it our internal IT department supporting you, or both?
Sometimes the test would crash, and right away the teacher would log out, end the session, log back in, start a new session, and the children would start right again. Then they would call me by the end of the day, and I would report, there's a crash. We believe the children have entered all their questions, and then if they could see all the answers were there, they would say, that's fine, we'll just report the crash, but no problems with the student information. And so most of the crashes were easily rectified that day. Some took a couple days.
One more, a couple more. Hey. Hang on, guys, here we go. I guess my concern is they're not recording any data at this point. This is just performance testing of the actual application.
Sorry, I'd like to be more clear. They are going to be looking at data, but we won't get student level data back like we are used to. So we won't get a child A with a name and a SACID number and their actual performance and last year's performance and how much growth. We won't get that level data yet. We might get, the state hasn't been exactly clear on what we're going to get, but we may get district level data, aggregates, we might get school level data, but we are not expecting to have student level data this time. We will, obviously, next year when it is not a field test anymore, we will have actual student data.
Thank you.
Done?
For now.
I have one question before I turn the floor over to Mr. Janitis. Was there a grant for the Smarter Balance tests? Did we receive grant money in order to implement? No. So while the Smarter Balance assessment test didn't cost us any money for the program, it still cost us man-hours, correct?
Yes, we would have given the CMT or capped if we had not given the SBAC.
Well, I understand it's still testing, but when, generally speaking, when you're talking about a program, whether you're replacing the program or not, I'm sure it took you extra time to implement the new software and you already acknowledged that you were logging in, 12 errors? So when there's the expectation of no cost, it means zero cost. It means somebody wrote you a check. And when you don't write you a check and you're dedicating your man hours to implementing a new system, I'm sure that at least there's some man hours that you were dedicating that would not have been spent on the CMT or on the CAPTs, correct?
Yes, I think that, and you always have to look at your man hours as man hours, and that is a resource, and you have to think about that. I think by and large, there was a little bit more this year, but we log problems with CAP2 and CMT, children with glitches. There's glitches with that. Some of that was online. The MOS testing was online. There was other things that are online there. So by and large, it did take more because it's new, but we would have been doing testing, and we would have been logging some errors. We just would have been more used to them.
I'm good. Mr. Janias.
I'm just sitting here wondering, and I know the answer because I was a history teacher, but how did we ever get to be the greatest nation on the face of the earth without all the billions and billions of dollars we spend on testing today?
Ms. LeBlanc?
When you're speaking of the crashing that occurred, was it a combination of the laptops or the computers in the computer lab? Was it?
No, by and large, it wasn't our computers. By and large, our computers worked well. By and large, there was some issues on the SBAC side.
On the SBAC side, okay.
There was a glitch we had to work out with the Mac operating system that Mr. Barassa worked hard to figure out. But the majority of times the system went down, it was on the SBAC side. Our systems worked well, very well.
Okay.
Was pleased, actually, and I think that fiber ring and the support you've given to provide up-to-date devices in many cases helped us with that.
That's good to know then, yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Just as quick, how many kids were tested?
Every child was tested in grades 3 through 8 and 11. And Initially, we had also identified grade 10, and children at Fermi in grade 10 took the test. Children at Enfield High in grade 10 started the test, but there was issues with the grade 10, and Mrs. Krieger and I decided, since they were optional, to stop them because they were experiencing too many issues, so we stopped the grade 10 at Enfield High. So just imagine every child, grade 3 through 8, and all of 11.
You said every child, including special ed, or were there different kinds of testing for that, or?
Yes. No, a skills checklist, children took the skills checklist.
Okay.
But this is a system where the modifications are embedded. You can highlight, it
okay.
can read to you.
Yeah.
You can read and it will speak, you can speak and it will write what you're reading. So this has embedded accommodations. So all children except skills checklist students took the test.
Okay. Given my past experience, if we tested that many kids and having 40 issues in the first year of a practice test, I'm kind of impressed. And for most of them, we were able to turn it around quickly.
Your principals did a great job organizing. Your assistant principals did a tremendous job. Mr. Newton often leads the high schools in this, and he did a great job problem solving and shooting and communicating. I think you should be really proud of what they did. This is a big effort this year, and I know there were times they were stressed, but they really held together very well.
Okay. I'd just like to thank you for the presentation. I think sitting on the committee, we have these documents we put together with goals and so on. We rarely review them, and for the public, and I think for the board. And my own experiences in some of the past ones we've had, we rarely get beyond year one. Okay, and I think that this board has experienced that. The fact that we're making progress all the way along here,
Very much so.
I'm very, very impressed. I also think, I think you believe this as well, is that where we're going, technology is going to play an increasingly critical role in gathering data and assessing student learning and so on. So I appreciate you coming forward with this. I'd like in the future to have additional updates as we keep accomplishing this. If not with your presence here, then certainly as an email or something in writing to us. Thank you very much, though.
Thank you.
Mr. Peabody, and then Ms. LeBlanc.
Just on a side note, the 7th grader in my home didn't mind the test, but the 4th grader in my home, not so much.
Mr.
Did anyone
Peabody.
crash? Did anyone crash?
No, he didn't. Neither one of them said anything about that. My 4th grader, I think he just prefer his school day to go exactly how he would like it and what he's used to, so he wasn't really a big fan of it at all.
Man on a mission.
But
All right. Very good. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for putting this together. I know in curriculum committee we did request that, and it's very eye-opening, and it was very refreshing to see a technology plan in a public setting, let alone a school system, looks like a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I think.
And that is tremendous. Great job to you, your team, and the principals throughout the school system. This is important. This is where we're going to be. This is the future, I think, of how we increase the positive experience of education. Thank you.
And thank you all very much for your support.
Dr. Schumann?
Mr. Sherrard, we now have our representative from Fermi High, so let's go back up to the top, and then I'll finish up when she finishes.
Ms. Salzinger, you have the floor.
Thank you. So last Sunday on May 4th, 2 Fermi seniors, Jeremy Hart and actually myself, attended the CIAC Scholar Athlete Dinner. And along with Mr. Newton, our parents, and my track and cross country coach, Mr. Walt Sullivan. Along with the great dinner that we had, we listened to tremendous speeches about integrity and goals and our self-image. And it was actually really well put together. This morning, everyone in our school attended a QPR assembly. QPR stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer, and it has to do with suicide prevention. So we learned how to detect signals and reach out for help for our friends. On Thursday at 6:30 is our spring instrumental concert. So of course all of our instrumental groups will be performing. Friday is senior prom at Chez Joseph, and next Friday, the 23rd, is our senior class picnic. I've said this before, but Memorial Day weekend, many of our band members are traveling to Washington, D.C. They're going to perform in the parade on Memorial Day, along with 120 groups. Now, out of 120 groups, only our 16 trumpet members, our trumpet group, will be playing taps during the moment of silence. So at 3 p.m., everyone will stop, everything will be silent, and they're going to be playing taps along Constitution Avenue, in front of the White House, and in front of the Washington Monument. I think that sounds pretty amazing. Yeah. They're also invited as one of 2 groups to perform during the opening ceremonies. And all of this is thanks to a nomination from Congressman Courtney. Then on Wednesday the 28th and Thursday the 29th is our honors breakfast at like 7:30 in the morning. This year it will be catering from the Country Diner, and of course you're all invited. Fermi Idol will take place on the 29th at 7 p.m. As always, every year it's a competition of all of our talented voices in the school, so it should be a good show. And finally, Fermi Expo will be on June 2nd at 4 p.m. Many exhibitions of all of our hard work and effort that students have gone throughout the year. And following that will be our awards and scholarships ceremony that night at 6:30. Thank you.
As you can surmise from Katie's information, we are ramping up towards the end of the school year. There's something going on in all the schools all the time, and you are certainly all invited to come, and we hope to see lots of you out there, and we'll be sending a lot of pictures out of those events. 3 events coming up for the board, thanks to the Mount Carmel Society and their wonderful generosity. They will once again host the National Honor Society dinner, and that will be June 10th, and traditionally that is begins, we ask you to arrive at 5, dinner starts promptly at 5:30, we do a short ceremony, then we come over here and the board will have a regular meeting on June 10th. The incoming grade 3 open house, opportunity for current grade 2 students to see what grade 3 is going to be about. Those will be taking place at our intermediate schools Wednesday, May 21st, starting at 6. We are going to have a chance to highlight the work we've been doing with LEGO and the partnership at a LEGO Fair open house at the Whitney School, Thursday, May 22nd, 6 p.m. in the library there and some other different locations. And of course, as Katie said, the Memorial Day holiday is coming up. School will be closed in observation of Memorial Day, and the Towns Parade is on Sunday the 25th at 1 o'clock. It starts at the Enfield Street School Elementary School and it concludes here at the Town Green. So lots of things happening, and we'll keep sending out the invitations to all of you and hope to see you all out there as we go through the next 6 or 7 weeks as we close out the school year.
Thank you, Dr. Schumann. I want to thank Ms. McKernan for an outstanding performance in general. You're an asset to the school system. You did very well today, as you always do. Thank you to our 2 board representatives from both high schools. You guys you impress me every time you come up. So, moving on. Audiences. We have Colleen and Samantha Saniglio. I hope I got it right.
You did.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha Sniglio and I live at 10 Shannon Drive, and I am a 6th grader at JFK Middle School, and I am in all high honors, and have been recognized twice this year as a Patriot Pride Pillar of Citizenship. I am here today because I want to talk about the dress code policy. Today on the way into school, an assistant principal stopped me to tell me that my sleeveless blouse was inappropriate and a distraction to other students learning. She said I could find a sweatshirt to wear or call my mother to get me. I became very sweaty wearing my friend's sweatshirt all day long in our unair-conditioned classrooms. Our job as students is to work hard on these new tests and to get good grades, not to be told by our teachers that we don't look appropriate to be learning at school. I wanted to see if you could reconsider the dress code as soon as possible, because it is getting hotter and our classroom temperature is becoming an uncomfortable learning environment. It also doesn't seem fair that one of my teachers is wearing a tank top while I had to sit in a zipped up sweatshirt all day long. I personally think the dress code should be, if our parents think it is appropriate and think it shows we respect ourselves, then we should be allowed to wear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nicely done.
I promised I wouldn't embarrass her by saying anything, so thank you.
Okay, board member comments. Secretary Grady.
Oh, me first. I was able to attend, I think it was last week or something like that, the JFK presentation of Little Mermaid. And let me tell you, it was jam-packed there, and they gave one heck of a performance. For those kids to get up there and give a presentation like they did, job well done. I also would like to, I guess it was Teachers Appreciation Week last week, and didn't get a chance to thank the teachers, but I'll do it now. And I just want to thank them for a job well done. I know they put up with a lot of stuff, different attitudes with different students, different mandates and criterias, different from years ago, but I just want to say thank you for the job that you do. And that'll be it.
Ms. LeBlanc.
I just want to say congratulations to Katie and Jeremy. I know Jeremy Hart. I know the Hart family well, so I believe that was well deserved. I mean, you're going to be graduating soon. You've been with us for 2 years, and I can't think of, it doesn't surprise me that you got to go and attend that. Also, I'd like to congratulate the Fermi Band and the trumpet players. I wish there was a way I could see that, but I'm sure there'll be a video posted later on. But that's quite an accomplishment. I got to attend the Eli Whitney fourth grade assembly a couple weeks ago because a fourth grader I know got an award there, which was a nice surprise. I also attended the groundbreaking for the high school consolidation. I thought it was really well run. I liked that there was a combination of both the Fermi Jazz Ensemble and the Enfield High Jazz Ensemble, and students from both sets of schools to hand out the programs. It just really, it was almost emotional sitting there thinking about how I was assigned to the pre-ref committee, and it seems like it was such a long time in the making, and it's actually going to happen, and it's such an exciting time for the town and for the students, and I'm really happy that I got to be a part of that and that we all get to be a part of it moving forward. And that's it.
Mr. Neville.
Ditto to Katie. I mean, we're so impressed with you, and you represent the school system of the town very, very well. And I know what an honor, having gone through that with a number of youngsters and their families, I know what an enormous honor it is for you to be recognized that way, and congratulations to you and your family. Secondly, like Tina said, we had the groundbreaking, okay, and it was outstanding. And I think they made the ceremony very, very relevant and important. And I think it's kind of interesting. You were on the pre-rec committee. I'm on the committee now, and all the stuff we've done in the past. Everybody here are trying to get it through, the referendum and so on, and all that stuff's like in the background. Nobody ever sees it. Now we're at a time where we're starting to see it. Okay, we're actually moving dirt, and I think the public is going to get to see a very, very fine building put together right before their eyes. And from here on in, you're going to watch cement being poured and steel going up, and you're going to see it. Actually, I think you're going to see it in pictures as they kind of do a time lapse thing of this thing. It's exciting for the town, and the people who were there. There's a sense of excitement that we all saw for the people to say we're finally starting this, and we're going to have something really, really tangible. So I commend Randy and Wendy and the whole committee that put that together. Dr. Schumann and the mayor gave wonderful comments to get us started on this, so I thank you all. And finally, as a member of the Enfield Suicide Prevention Committee, along with Mr. Sherrard, a lot of good things have happened in terms of prevention that we're trying to deal with. And I think from where we were several years ago to where we are now, and even the thing that Katie mentioned there, the QPR thing that went with all the students, these are all offshoots of the original committee that have been going on. Even Rachel's Challenge, all of those things come from that. I had the pleasure to go to a training, to introduce a training at the Hazleville Fire Station the other day on prevention. And it's not just school folks. They're bringing in community members, faith-based groups, all of the various organizations in town, the CHR and just DCF and so on, and all with the same theme, to prevent this, to come up with a better way to make this community a safer place and to deal with folks who may be affected in some way with this. So it was an exciting time. There were 30 people there coming in for training on their own time, which was in a 2-day training session. So I had the pleasure to be there, and I commend all those folks for keeping it going. It's really a positive thing. Thank you.
Ms. LeBlanc.
I just wanted to say one more thing. Watching the Enfield High girls softball team, last year they finished with a record of 1-19, and today they clinched their 7th win. They have one more win, and then they'll make it to the state championships, or not the state championships, I'm sorry, playoffs. But coming off a season of 1-19 last year and having 7 wins this year is a big feat for them, and I'm proud of them, and I've enjoyed watching them. They actually had a younger team come and watch them today, how they play. It was, and the girls were watching them and talking about, oh, look at the shortstop, and so congratulations to them, and I'm sure they'll get that 8th win, and they'll get to go to the playoffs.
Ms. Thurston.
I just want to congratulate the JFK Junior National Honor Society inductees. I attended the ceremony with Mr. Drezek, and as you were tweeting all your pictures, it was very nice. I'd never been to one, so I enjoyed it. And I also attended their play of Little Mermaid, and as Mr. Grady said, it was packed. Some of us had to stand in the back while others were sitting in a seat. We won't mention any names, Mr. Grady.
If I'd known you were there, I would have given you my seat.
But they did a great job, and that.
Thank you, Ms. Thurston. Mr. Janitis.
Just so Samantha doesn't feel like she's not going to get an answer to what she had asked. Every once in a while, it might be a good idea to look over some of the requirements that we put on the kids in the schools at all the levels. But as far as the dress code, I mean, it can be looked at again, but that's been an issue that's just been a thorn in the side of educators here in town, I'm sure everywhere, because there are fine lines that get stepped over quite easily, and I think the dress codes are printed in the student handbooks that they get, so students should read that, and I would think that a loose-fitting T-shirt of some sort or something like that might suffice. But I mean, we were getting into pajamas and outfits that look like things that you'd see on some of those reality TV shows, I guess. I actually remember one day, I don't know if you do, but I complimented a girl one time on her dress, and then you sent her home. So, I mean, you know, it's all in the eyes of, I guess, who's looking at it. But it's a touchy issue, it really is. And unfortunately, for some who could do it well, that would be fine, but there are others that are going to go over and cross the line, and I think that's the point where we're at, and just to answer Samantha's question. But, you know, I guess it's something that we could look at again, and then, I don't know, it's like the old hat issue, too, so that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Janitis. Mr. Peabody.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations, Katie. Job well done. Over the past couple of weeks, I had the honor, I guess, or privilege of playing in the Fermi Instrumental Music Association golf tournament. And I did not embarrass myself. I only lost one golf ball for 9 holes, sank a 35-foot putt, and my team came in tied for first at 3 under par. That'll never happen again. In terms of some of the things that have been going on, we've gone through budget hearings, and we're still working through the budget cycles, and I just want to make sure that I thank Mr. Drezek and Dr. Schumann for putting up with all our requests and getting them done so we can position ourselves to defend the budget, not to keep status quo, but to keep at least the current state intact. And we'll be working over the next few weeks, I'm sure, to do that. That's essentially all I have tonight, so I'll be short and sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Peabody. Ms. Ungeyer.
Oh, wait a minute.
I wanted to congratulate Katie. Congratulations. A couple weeks ago, I attended the Enfield String Festival, and it was students from 5th grade to 12th grade. They had close to 200 students performing, and they were exceptional. I think of all the hard work and time they put in for practices, and it was amazing. It was 5th grade through 12th grade. I also attended The Little Mermaid at JFK. I showed up Friday night. I saw Stacy, and it was too crowded. I came back the next day for the. I didn't have a seat. Right. So I went to the 1 o'clock matinee, and I wanted to give kudos to Ms. Fitzsimmons on her direction of the play. The students were fabulous, and it's hard to believe that they were middle school students that were performing this play. There wasn't a glitch, or it was just perfect. I really enjoyed it. I also wanted to thank Dr. Schumann and Mr. Drezik and Mr. Koppler for their presentation at the budget meeting that we had at Enfield High School. I know a lot of time and energy and thought goes into that. I'm sure the residents of Enfield and the students appreciate it. I attended the grandparents' breakfast at Hazardville Memorial School, and they served about 300 meals that morning. So it was really well attended. A lot of grandparents showed up, and I spent some time with Bonnie Mazzoli. We discussed their association with Lego and how they walked to Denmark, and I saw the video and how they Skyped with the students there. It was really interesting. And she's also going to be retiring. They're having a retirement dinner for her at Lenote's on June 17th, so that's coming up. Also, I have a CREC meeting next Wednesday. They're having a special Grassroots to Growth, Cultivating Regional Collaboration. So I'll find out what that all is. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Ungar. Vice Chairman Walwer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Katie, congratulations. Looking forward to reading your name in newspapers all over the country in the next 4 years. I also made it to the play on Friday night. I had front row seats. I don't know where you guys were, but I do want to. I do want to. I'm going to mention my contact in the middle school, Miss Salva Joy Kane, and her son Matt, who was in the play. He did a great job on a ship. It was a great play. I had an opportunity to talk with our staff, our education employees afterwards, Kristen Fitzsimmons, Kimberly Jackson, Aaron Hayes. They put on a marvelous program. And I, too, could not believe that these were middle school kids. Very professionally done. Moving on to Pom Pom Zombies, which was this past weekend. That, too, was another great show, and I talked to our director of the Lamplighters afterwards, and he's moving the program along in a very good direction. And the board finance chair will be pleased to know that committee, that function, is going to have a surplus at the end of school year, June 30th, and looking forward to doing investing some money in some really good plays next year. But that was a trend I thought was a very positive one. And finally, I just want to mention state legislature had adjourned. And unfortunately, reading through the bills that CABE sent to us, we did. There's not much good news to report here in the town of Enfield. There's some more mandates. They're going to cost us money. Requirements, and again, there are many bills here. There was no relief on existing costly mandates such as the CREC tuition, unfortunately. From a management perspective, and there was no relief. I didn't read relief about postponing some issues relative to costs related to Common Core and teacher evaluation, which other states are doing in their legislatures, but not ours. So unfortunately, it's not good news. And but I did want to report to the public that the session is over, thank God, and they can't do any more damage.
Thank you, Mr. Walwer. Katie, you rock. Congratulations. You do us proud, and you should be very proud of yourself. It's always good when, we consider you one of our own, when one of our own does something really spectacular, and you're awesome. Groundbreaking, absolutely. Having been involved in the process since the very beginning to form the new school, I am very happy. I'm happy that the new Enfield High School will be shortly going up, and Higgins is finally coming down. You have to admit although there's some memories attached to Higgins for many members of our community, the building really was becoming an eyesore, and it's good that space will now be turned into green space. So, last year, a member of our educational community, Kathleen Cookie Bromage, was honored by the Connecticut High School Coaches Association, and she was the recipient of the Thomas Monahan Award, which is the highest award that organization gives. She's been basically inducted into their Hall of Fame for high school coaches. She's been the high school field hockey coach probably since its inception of field hockey here in Enfield High in 1967, I believe. Yes, in 1967. Also, she was recently recognized because of her contributions to field hockey and what an outstanding coach she was. She was honored by the Connecticut High School Coaches Association. That's where she got the Thomas Monahan Award. It was the, and again, she was inducted into the National Coaches Hall of Fame last year. So, Cookie, thank you so much for making us look so good, and we hope so much to see you at a future board meeting so that we can thank you properly. Budget process, I'm glad you guys could all go to the plays because I've been busy working on the darn budget in every free moment of my time. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. I wanted to throw that in, and we're going to move on to our next item of business. Unfinished business, policy review. Vice Chairman Walmer.
Okay, as chair of the policy committee, we are proposing second reading of policy 5140.1, child abuse neglect, and that is a review of an existing policy. There's no need to vote, I do not believe.
The second reading?
Second reading.
There is a need to vote. Do I have a motion to treat this as the second reading?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Peabody, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any discussion? Roll call, Kathy?
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Peabody?
Yes.
Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Warwer?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston? Chairman Sirard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on to the next item, Vice Chairman Walmer.
Okay, policy number 5123, promotion retention. This is the second reading. I did not hear any questions. Oh, and this proposal was first came from the Student Curriculum Committee. I'm trying to think which. Correct, and then it was reviewed by the Policy Committee. So this is second reading. I don't know if there are any questions. If not, we need a motion for a second.
Do I have a motion to accept this as the second reading of the policy revision?
Move that we accept the version of 5123, promotion retention, as a second reading.
Do I have a second? I have a motion made by Mr. Neville, seconded by Ms. Thurston. Is there any discussion? Sensing none, Kathy, you may have a roll call, please.
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Peabody?
Yes.
Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Warwer?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston? Chairman Sirard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Approve the school readiness renewal grant for fiscal year 2014-2015. Dr. Schumann.
Thank you, Mr. Sirard. Earlier this evening, you heard an update on the school readiness renewal grant for fiscal year 2014-15. This grant requires the approval from both the Board of Education and the Town Council. The Town Council unanimously endorsed this grant renewal on May 5th. Therefore, the Enfield Board of Education may take any actions deemed appropriate regarding approving the school readiness renewal grant for fiscal year 2014-15. And Mrs. Brown and Ms. Como are still here if you have additional questions before you take any action.
Do I have a motion to approve the school readiness renewal grant for fiscal year 2014-2015?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Walwer, seconded by Mr. Grady. Is there any discussion? Sensing none, can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Peabody?
Yes.
Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Walwer?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston? Chairman Serard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
New business, item B, action, if any, regarding a matter related to collective bargaining. Do we need to go into executive session prior to having that vote?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that would be advised.
All right, so we're going to hold that off until after an executive session? Moving on to, I can just do that, correct? It's already mentioned. Item B may be addressed after item 17B if needed. and it needs
It's
to be-
noted on the agenda, so we can do it that way.
We can, we're all set. Moving on to board committee reports. Do we have any board committee reports?
No.
I have one from the Fermi Advisory Committee. The Fermi Advisory Committee has requested me to request of the board permission for one of our members to go to the town and request an architect to review the JFK site for recommendations to possible additions and cleaning up the site, updating the site. So that's my report to you as of now. I was very, Mr. Janitis.
Clarify that, updating it or?
Well, some of the discussion on that particular topic was that JFK is a valuable school and it looks well, but they're looking into the possibility of eliminating the trailers that are out back and possibly building another spoke to the existing school between, I believe, Red and White Wings. Is that Red House and White House?
It'd be red and the black wing, I think it's,
Red and black.
There's no tanks or anything down there?
I don't think so.
No. So what they're looking for is just, even if, because, I'm in the representative of the committee right now, they're requesting that one of the member committee members be probably me or Mr. Peabody or Ms. Thurston. Request from the town council that an architect be assigned to evaluate JFK. Now, as you know, by board policy, no single board member can do that without first getting approval from the board. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question. Why are we, if it's about Fermi, this committee is about Fermi, if it's a viable building for a school, why are we getting involved in JFK?
Well, the Fermi Advisory Committee is brought into the possibility of the middle school, where the middle school will be located. They were looking at it. They want a full set of numbers and allowing the committee to go in the direction that it wishes to go. That's what they've requested of the board.
In an ideal world, I'd say sure, but I'm just wondering, I remember how much it cost us to get that 4 square or 3, whatever it was that we did for Fermi, which was pretty expensive. And I'm just, if the council says no, what's the next step?
If the council says no, then it will be addressed by the Fermi Advisory Committee before they make any final recommendations. Ms. Thurston?
I don't know if I can.
You can say whatever you want.
Well, no.
Well,
in the past, no. In the past,
what
no.
happened last time? I think it basically comes down to we have the information. The committee had the information regarding Fermi, what needed to be done, what was looked at. JFK was never looked at, so they want someone to look at JFK, so that way we can say, okay, we see this, and then just kind of make the decision from there.
Mr. Grady?
My question is was that the scope of the committee?
The scope of the committee was determine an educational use of Fermi. They have determined, but part of their insight or part of the questions they were asking was, where's the middle school going to be? And that's why they were looking at JFK. Again, the committee is pretty much deciding what direction they want to go in, as my 2 board members who are on the committee are saying, and I just kind of manage the meeting. So they're doing their own thing, and they're trying to do their due diligence as a committee. Mr. Walwer.
Well, the request has merit. It's up to the town council to decide, not us.
Right.
All we're doing is presenting a request to town council. The town of Enfield owns all the buildings, and I would think the town of Enfield would want to do due diligence on all buildings, as it has done on the one that just came down.
Further discussion?
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Mr. Chinitis.
I think I know where they may be going or what they may be contemplating, and I think, Vinny, it's kind of like dominoes. One could affect the other. But as far as hiring architects, since it really wasn't their scope to fully analyze JFK, I'm wondering, and I don't know if we can actually do this, but it seems to be there are a number of architects who are involved in some sort of local government or people who know architects. I'm wondering if they would be able to be interviewed and give their opinion without it costing the town any money whatsoever. In other words, it would almost be an unofficial attachment to what they're looking at. Give them an idea, and then if they do so, decide that they want to use Fermi as a middle school, then obviously architects or somebody would have to be brought in to fully decide exactly the structure and how JFK would be used if it were going to be used for, say, a 3 to 5 school. But keeping in mind, too, if that's the way they're going, I believe the classes of the elementary level classes are smaller in numbers than the upper level classes are. So it would be probably even fewer students than what are in JFK now. And a lot of people say JFK is bulging at the seams with just under 1,100, but I remember the days when both Kosciuszko and JFK had over 2,000. I don't ever want to go back to those days. But I think there might be enough architects in town where maybe we can get an unofficial reading to help the committee.
It's my understanding that the committee just is looking for an idea, a rough estimate. I mean, whether it's an architect or, my personal opinion is it does no harm or foul to request of the town committee to give a rough estimate. If you want to amend the motion to a rough estimate, I don't care. I am just merely acting as the conduit for that advisory committee. Again, this is something that is, because the board will be making the decision, you cannot just go off on your own. It needs to be something that the board approves to empower an individual, whoever that may be, to go and request it from the town, so, or at least discuss it with the town council. Mr. Peabody.
I think to do proper due diligence to the process, since the public is insisting that we look at not just what the use of Fermi may be, what it would be. So that puts the committee into a position to look at what are we comparing. If we're going to make it a middle school, we got to look at what the viability of keeping the middle school is over the next 10 years. So that's going to involve some work. There's been some good work done at JFK, but in order to give an apples-to-apples comparison, like to like, we do need to have an architect come in. We do need to eliminate the trailers, as everybody knows, but you may need some other classroom space. There's work to be done on that, and having an architect, like Mr. Serrard just said, it would be good due diligence. It'd only be proper form. So,
Any further discussion? Mr. Chinitis.
I'm asking you because I think you've gone to some of these meetings. Have they at all looked at Fermi as a place to install a small voc ed school or an alternative ed program there?
I can say that that has been a topic of discussion as to what the use for Fermi will be. I know it has been a concern. One of the other things that was briefly brought up was alternative education as well. I will tell you that so far in all of the meetings have been relatively lively and full of discussion, and a lot of tough questions have been asked and answered, as Mr. Drezek will, I'm sure, also attest. So, again, any further discussion? Mr. Peabody.
one last point. I want to make this as data-driven, information-driven as possible. And in order to really do that, we do need to have the architect come in. I think we're all nodding our heads. We don't want to beat a dead horse. But that needs to happen. And to Peter's question, yes, there was a very one whole meeting dedicated towards, could we do vocational and alternative education at the Fermi building?
Any further discussion? Sensing no, Kathy?
Mr. Janitis?
Could you read the motion exactly what we're voting on?
Sure.
Motion to request an architect to evaluate the JFK building.
Okay.
Or request to the town council.
There you go.
Sorry. Okay.
I hate saying it, but no.
Mr. Peabody?
Yes.
Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Walwer?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
No.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston?
Yes.
Chairman Serrard?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes on April 22nd, 2014. Do I have a motion to accept
So
the
moved.
minutes? Do I have a second? A motion made by Mr. Neville, seconded by Ms. Ungary. Any discussion? Sensing none, can I have an approval of minutes by show of hands? All those in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay. Approval of accounts and payroll, we have none. Correspondence and communications, Secretary Grady.
Two things. Sorry. First, invitation to all to attend the Enfield High School Academic Awards and Scholarship Night on May 28th at 6:30 p.m. in the Enfield High School Auditorium. Also, an invitation, like Katie mentioned earlier, to attend the Fermi High School Award Scholarship Program on June 2nd at 6:30 p.m. in the auditorium. But you're also invited to a scholarship reception at 5:45 the same night in room D, like in Dog, 206. And that is all.
Thank you, Secretary Grady. Any audiences? We have no audiences. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
You have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Walwer, seconded by Mr. Neville. Can I vote by show of hands? We are in executive session. Will not be returning to the chamber.